Good evening, everyone. It's so good to see people actively engaging in the school board. The regular meeting of the Independent School District 279 School Board is called to order at 6 p.m. on July 25th, 2023. This regular business meeting of the Osseo School Board is being conducted in the boardroom at the Educational Service Center. The meeting can be monitored electronically by streaming online from the district website. An archive recording of tonight's meeting will also be available on the district website. Seated in front of you from my left to your right is Director Thomas Brooks, Director Heather Douglas, Director Tanya Simons, myself, Jackie Mosqueda Jones, Director Sarah Mitchell, and Director Tamara Grady. Also present in the boardroom is Superintendent Dr. Kim Heil, Cabinet members Anthony Paternos, and Brian Bass, and Counselor Amy Moore. Those of you who can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Simons, will you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board members, are there any additions to the agenda tonight? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Director Thomas Brooks. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Director Sarah Mitchell. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. The next standing agenda item is recognitions, and we have no recognitions this evening. The next agenda item is audience opportunity to address the school board. I have a statement to read before we have public comment. Before sharing some guidelines for audience participation, I would like to remind all that everyone here this evening, regardless of their point of view on matters before the board, have the best interest of our scholars in mind. We want our children to care about each other even when there is disagreement. We strive to be one community, and in doing so, decorum matters in this public space as we share perspectives. Speakers will be called to the podium in this order: student, parents, staff, community members, and then others. When I call your name, please come to the microphone and state your name, the topic, and whether or not you're a district resident. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. There are 15 speaker cards, so that would be helpful. Address the entire board. That means we're not addressing an individual board member or the audience, either visually or verbally, including posters and literature. The board and audience will listen and not respond back at this time. If you would like someone to follow up with you on your questions and or comments, please let the board secretary know, Sherry. Concerns about a particular book can be brought through the review committee after addressing it with the teacher and administration. The full policy and procedure can be found on the school board page under Policy and Procedure 652. The board cannot take action on any books until it goes through that process. Comments and interaction between board members and the public are expected to be respectful, courteous, professional, and civil. For the good of our community, personnel concerns should be directed to individuals in the following order: building principal, executive director for human resources, assistant superintendent, superintendent, and finally in writing to the school board. I appreciate your adherence to this. Thank you. So that being said, on with our 15 cards here, starting with parents and guardians. There are no student speakers tonight. The top of my list is Natalie Sonic.
While Ron's passing those out, I just want to make note that I do have a handout, including some of the content that I'm going to be talking about tonight. So if you want to take a look at that, that would be great.
No, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Natalie Sonic. I have 2 daughters that have been attending Maple Grove High School. I'm here tonight expressing concerns with the sexually graphic books found in our school. What Girls Are Made Of by Alina Arnold is currently in our school libraries. The book starts with Nina's mother telling her there is no such thing as unconditional love. Love is conditional upon sex and beauty. Nina, at age 14, takes this lesson to heart. Nina states, Seth and I met in 5th grade, but he didn't love me until last summer. Even now, I'm aware that his love for me is conditional. Condition number 1, sex. It's okay with me. I love it. It didn't hurt much the first time and has gotten better since. Page 19. I laid a towel on the sheet in case I bled.
Natalie,
And then I watched Seth
I'm
roll.
going to interrupt you for a minute. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Last month, we had some kids in the audience, and some of the language was offensive to some.
Okay, that's exactly it. So I think we should continue, Jackie, because that's exactly my point. 100%. Page 19. I laid a towel on the sheet in case I bled.
Hold on. As I requested, I would like decorum in the audience as well. Okay, I just want to, so far, it's been okay, but I just want to warn you about who may be in the audience. That was all I was going to say.
Okay, so I could continue?
Yes.
Page 19. I laid a towel on the sheet in case I bled. And then I watched Seth roll the condom over his penis. I watched his hands push into the flesh of my thighs, spreading them apart. And I watched him maneuver his latex wrapped erection as he pushed and tried to get inside. The book continues. For their 3rd month anniversary, Seth gets Nina a vibrator because no matter how much he licks her, he can't get her to come. Page 57. I pull him out of his underwear. He's soft in my hand. I don't look up at his face before I open my mouth, and I pull him into it. And I pull and I suck until he grows hard. And I keep going and going. When he says, I'm going to come, I don't pull away. The jet of him is warm and salty and tastes like thickened sweat. Page 58. She was talking about worshiping Jesus, but come on, she was talking about sex, right? Sex with Jesus. That's what she wanted, to give Jesus head. And I totally understand it. You want to consume the person you love. You want to eat him so he's inside of you, so he's a part of you, so he can't leave. Chewing the flesh and drinking the blood of Jesus every Sunday in church, swallowing Seth's cum, is it different? Is it?
Point of order. I just don't think this is appropriate for a school board meeting. We
Well,
do have an
that's
adult
exactly-
process to review a
No,
book.
and I get it.
believe
And
that
this is
your
where I'm
language
going.
is
I'm going to
inappropriate.
exactly that policy. Page 107. Nina is pregnant and at Planned Parenthood talking to the female staff member, Angie, who had an abortion. Nina asked her, are you sorry? Angie shakes her head and said, I don't believe in God, she said, but if I did, I thank him every day for both of my abortions. Page 126. Nina, after having an abortion, states, the abortion was the kindest, best thing that I've done for myself as long as I can remember. I've gotten interrupted, so I'm just going to finish. This book encourages teens to become sexually active, stating it's a requirement for dating. It normalizes sex, masturbation, and abortions.
Excuse me?
Our district does not have a policy in place protecting children from printed pornography, which is exactly what this book is. There needs to be policy for printed materials that restricts these books from getting into our schools. Our current district policy 441 is our internet policy, which
Natalie,
is in place to protect
Natalie,
minors from online
you have
harmful.
You have gone over time, and she paused for the
Well,
interruptions.
I've had a number, and I'm just finished.
She paused for the interruptions. You're over time. Thank you. Please, I have asked that the audience remain silent during this time. George Bitzinski. Did I say that right? Bazinski. I apologize.
That's okay. You're not the first one to do that. Hi, my name is George Bitzinski. I live in the district, and I have 2 grandchildren who attend the school here. I thought it might be helpful for everyone to understand some of the key legal decisions that dictate the policy for all Minnesota school districts. Hopefully this will clarify that many of the policies discussed in comments over the last couple of months are actually based on settled law. In September of 2020, the Minnesota Court of Appeals issued a decision that Minnesota schools must allow students to use locker rooms that align with their gender identity. The court ruled that the Anoka-Hennepin School District's requirement of a separate locker room for a transgender student had violated the Minnesota Human Rights Act, which prohibits gender identity discrimination in schools. Similarly, other school facilities, such as restrooms, would be covered by these rulings. That ruling came on the heels of a landmark U.S. Supreme Court decision, Bostock versus Clayton County, Georgia, that affirmed that discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity is illegal under federal law. Also, as respect the federal courts, just last month, in June of 2023, 5 federal judges in Arkansas, Florida, Kentucky, Alabama, and Indiana have blocked all or parts of legislation that bans transgender people from receiving gender-affirming care. These decisions referenced non-discrimination clauses in U.S. healthcare law, and most importantly, the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment that provides equal protection under the law for all. These legal findings, both in Minnesota and nationally, specifically protect transgender people and the LGBTQ community from all forms of discrimination. And our Minnesota school districts endeavor to not only make our schools a welcoming and safe place for all students to learn, but also to abide by both our state and federal constitutions in enacting policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Sonic. Sonic or Sonic?
My name is Ron Sonic. I'm father of 2 daughters in the school district, owner of a small business with 30 employees, and one of the founding members of the Maple Grove Middle School Parents and Community Together organization, otherwise known as PACT. I'm here to speak in support of repealing the Gender Inclusion Policy 508 and against the sexual indoctrination of our children. 5 years ago, I was part of a parents group assembled at MGMS to identify ways to increase parent engagement at the middle school. The end result of these meetings was the creation of the first middle school nonprofit parents group in 2009. The founding principles of this organization were formed from a consensus of roughly 40 participating members, which focused on creating an environment that celebrated diversity and inclusion, not forcing any one type of ideology onto our children. So how did we get here, and how did we get Policy 508 passed? Did it pass because the policy reflects the majority views of our school district? I would say no. It was allowed to pass because parents like me were asleep at the wheel and not engaged in the agendas being pushed by our elected school board members. A few educational facts from our district website: 42% of our students are meeting state assessment standards in math, 50% in reading. These are areas that we can all point to and agree that it's not good enough, and we need to do more to strive and be better. The ideas of transgenderism and social engineering have suddenly become a core part of our educational curriculum and are undoubtedly taking focus away from teaching the fundamental that students need and not being able to write or read proficiently, but at least they'll be able to refer to everyone by their preferred pronoun. A few notes regarding this phenomenon from a New York Times article that I recently read. Transgender children are estimated to make up 0.6% of our population, or about 120 students in our school district. And numerous studies show that children under the age of 15 are very susceptible to peer influence. This meaning that the teachings and environment that one is in will greatly influence one's thoughts and attitudes. Not a shocking fact for anyone that has raised a teenager. So why is our school district forcing this doctrine onto our students all the way down to a preschool age? For a group that reflects less than 1% of our population, why teach our children that a snow person will now be used to teach our children about their sexual identity? There's one reason. It's to allow the 1% to force an ideology on the other 99. Our schools cannot become allowed to become an agent of this social engineering. I ask you, our elected officials and 279 stakeholders that are here tonight or watching at home, that the time for action is now. The silent majority needs to rise up and be counted. Repeal Policy 508 and protect our children from this transgender ideology. Let's focus on education and not indoctrination. Thank you.
Thank you. If you continue to clap, I will have people out of the room. Erica Foster.
Good evening. My name is Erica Foster, a resident of Maple Grove and mom to 3 kids that all attend Osseo area schools. I would like to address how the LGBTQIA+ resolution was passed last June, the process that developed it, and how it was rolled out. The resolution was sent to the board members on a Thursday at the end of the school year, which then only provided a weekend for people to become aware of this resolution. Is that a healthy, sustainable practice for the school board to follow? MN Pride and supporters of the resolution had a huge turnout and were quite disruptive at the meeting. They even bullied parents of students who were there, and that led to an unsafe environment for the actual stakeholders. This has led to people now being nervous to speak up because of how they were initially treated. With the big turnout, it leads me to believe that activist groups were involved in this from the beginning and were given more opportunity to provide input than students, parents, and the community that this resolution now impacts. An activist should never have more say than the parents of a child in the district. The board members that wrote the resolution should have involved a broader group of community members in its development. They should have insisted on listening sessions solely around this issue. They should have allowed more time for public feedback. Instead, they pushed a resolution through at the beginning of summer when most Minnesotans are notoriously out of town. It was either maliciously intended to sneak through or at the very least, not well planned. My questions for the school board tonight are, who did you involve in the development of the resolution? Did you involve a wide variety of parents and community members in our school district? Why was it passed so quickly and without more time for input? Were there focus groups that were open to the school district at large? How is the resolution going to impact the everyday life of kids in schools? What about those who disagree with the resolution? What choices do they have to opt out? Why is a resolution dictating policy and procedure? Is that how school policy is supposed to function? I believe we as parents deserve to know how this resolution was developed, what input was provided, and how those involved were selected. This seemed like a very biased process and one that didn't look at the entirety of the district, but rather a limited group of people. We deserve answers to these questions. I am greatly disappointed in the lack of transparency that some of you as board members have shown over the last 2 years, as you have moved quickly and without community input in regard to major resolutions in 2021 and 2022 that have greatly impacted the personal lives of families and children in the district. This has led to a great distrust of the school board and administration. Parents and families of Osseo area schools deserve better. We deserve to partner with the school district and not be excluded from decisions like this that significantly impact our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill Bazinski. Did I say it right this time?
My name is Jill Bitzinski. I'm the grandmother of 2 kids in the district. Thank you, board members, for the time, and welcome, Dr. Heil. We've been waiting for you. I have 5 facts to share tonight. 1, on the district's policy development, it's still early days. The educational equity team is moving carefully with input from a large advisory group of parents, staff, and students across district. 2, no one is teaching elementary students sexual orientation or gender diversity. In fact, the educational equity team's intent is to introduce these topics to middle school and senior high school students only. 3, there is no grooming or recruitment of children into the LGBTQ community going on. Not a bit. It's not a thing. FYI, experts in development state that there is no evidence showing increased exposure to LGBTQ people or topics makes children more likely to join the LGBTQ community. It's not a matter of persuasion. Per U of M researcher Jennifer McGuire, exposure to these topics does not change the way kids develop. It changes how they feel about how they develop. Accepting parents and peers don't change whether or not their kid is trans. They change whether or not their kid hates themselves, gets kicked out of the house for being trans, or gets beaten up at school. The kid's transness is there regardless. 4, we need these programs because adults and kids don't often understand, relate to, empathize with, or respect one another across the breadth of humanity. These programs keep all students safe and seen. To the point made earlier tonight about 1% being affected, this profoundly affects far more than 1% of the school community. 5, research shows students who empathize are also more cooperative in class, have better relationships with their teachers, and are more engaged in school. Empathetic students
30
tend
seconds
to have,
remaining.
thank you, higher GPAs and eventually greater success in college. It's directly contributive to their academic achievement. I am happy to share sources on these statistics and their conclusions with anyone interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Jansen?
Hi, my name is Kelly Jansen. I'm a parent of an Osseo District High School student and a Brooklyn Park resident. I've worked to protect kids throughout my life. Most recently, I've been working to increase the penalties for those convicted of possessing, distributing, and producing child sexual abuse imagery. While on the REMAC committee this spring, I talked to Troy to get the ball rolling on having training for students and staff on red flags for trafficking and sextortion. Act United is a local sexual exploitation awareness organization. I attended their classroom presentation at the Burnsville High School. They also give students resources if they need help and don't have anyone to turn to. The urgency for this training has come to the forefront because the BCA issued an alert that sextortion is a serious issue nationwide. The BCA is recommending students, parents, and staff get educated on warning signs and how to get help before something tragic happens. The last time I heard from Troy, he was going to discuss it with district-level cabinet members for their consideration, and I'm wondering if this has occurred yet and the result, and if anything like this has been taught in any classes right now. Educating children and parents of the signs to watch for is crucial because you can't tell who a predator is just by the way they look, and background checks only flag predators that have been caught. And 95% of all predators are not known to the criminal justice system. 99% of all childhood sexual abuse involve at least some elements of sexual grooming, which the 5 stages of sexual grooming are: select a victim who is vulnerable, gain access to the minor either through work or volunteering, perpetrator works to gain trust and compliance of the minor and significant adults in their lives, 4, desensitize the child to sexual content by asking questions about the minor's sexual experience, teach sexual education, and expose the minor to pornographic images and videos. And then post-abuse is to encourage secrets. And if you think this isn't an urgent issue because it can't happen here, I hope you're right. But you don't have to look very far to find predators in school districts right here in Minnesota that use these techniques to groom children in the very schools they worked in. Bemidji, a middle school assistant principal, a volunteer and employee at Minneapolis schools, a drama teacher and a paraprofessional in Anoka Hennepin, and the high school principal at Chanhassen. That's just a few. So I leave you with this, which ties into the concerns that other parents have brought up. Jakob Boyens, an international expert in fighting child sex trafficking, said that comprehensive sex ed and these sexually explicit books in the schools is doing the grooming for pimps and predators. And I don't want that in Osseo School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Erickson.
Chris Erickson, resident of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Full disclosure, I am a city council member in Brooklyn Park. My views tonight do not represent the city of Brooklyn Park or the council thereof. I am a parent of 3 Osseo area school children, one of whom is LGBTQ identifying. But all 3 of my children have LGBTQ identifying friends. Some of those children report that they don't feel safe in their own homes or in their own churches as they are. I would like to admonish the school board to continue to make our schools often the only safe place that these kids have to be themselves, to express their way of being in the world safely, hospitably, and encouraging other kids to be allies, to be empathetic, to be supportive and encouraging. And even in disagreement, we can honor each other's humanity as we wish to be seen as individuals. So thank you for the work done so far. I would like to admonish you that that work continue and expand, and that our school be that one safe place for the kids who need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Nystrom.
Good evening. My name is Paul Nystrom, and I live in Maple Grove. Others have pointed out that requiring gender identity curriculum and instruction violates the district's. Others have pointed out that requiring gender identity curriculum and instruction violates the district's own policy on sexual education, as there is no opt-out option, despite there being an opt-out option for the sexual education that has been delivered up until now. Rather than discuss that further, I'm going to highlight a feature of the transgender ideology that is inconsistent. I've been a doctor for 18 years. My specialty is emergency medicine. Let me tell you about appendicitis. Appendicitis is when the appendix gets inflamed or infected. The long accepted treatment is surgery to remove it. It's one of the oldest surgical procedures with a very low complication rate. Decades of data and experience support the idea that this is the preferred treatment for appendicitis. Imagine you're 12 years old and you come to my ER, and after some tests, I diagnose appendicitis. I will call a surgeon who will have a detailed conversation with you regarding the surgery. You will be asked to sign a consent form after having a discussion with the surgeon about the pros and cons of surgery, and you feel all your questions are answered sufficiently. This is called informed consent. Again, straightforward surgery, lots of data, high benefit to risk ratio, pretty simple. Arguably, there are almost no significant long-term complications. But wait, you're only 12 years old. You didn't even drive to the ER because you're not old enough. Your parents had to bring you. And as an ER doc, with very few exceptions, I can't even treat you without parental consent except for life and limb-threatening conditions. So what that means, practically speaking, is that your brain is not fully developed to make decisions about your own health and well-being. I don't say this to be mean to you, or any child for that matter, or any former child in the room. It's simply a known fact that the human brain is not fully developed until well after high school. So besides the fact that you can't sign the informed consent form, there is no credible surgeon in the country that will allow you to sign it. In fact, there is no hospital legal department that would allow the surgeon to even claim they had an informed consent conversation with a 12-year-old. The informed consent form for literally every procedure in every hospital have a place for a parent or guardian signature. In almost 20 years of doing this, I've never seen a form without it. Remember, you didn't drive to the ER. You got a ride because we don't allow 12-year-olds to drive or smoke, vape, drink alcohol, get tattoos or piercings, do adventure races, skydive, scuba dive, bungee jump, or even jump at Sky Zone without parental consent. Some of you are wondering why I spent 2 minutes talking about appendicitis and informed consent. The reason is because the logical conclusion of encouraging kids to pursue transgender ideology is eventually hormone blockers and surgery. And we are supposed to believe that a
30 seconds
12-year-old
remaining.
should be allowed to consent to such a life-altering surgery to remove body parts, the removal of which changes the course of that child's entire sexual future and reproductive options. Surgeries that do not have decades of data and experience to support a favorable benefit to risk ratio. Surgeries that have very little research behind them and virtually no long-term outcome data. That's inconsistent, to say the least. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave? Dave?
Disrespectful, be
Please.
quiet. Just be quiet. Keep talking.
Thank you.
It's sad.
Yes, you are.
It's sad.
Okay,
Did she get kicked out too?
yeah,
She should get kicked out. You need to leave this.
Thank you.
Thank you for those that actually care about the kids in the district.
Oh, I realize that. I'm giving us all a moment to calm down because we were not treating each other with respect. And so I would like that to happen. So I'm giving us a moment just like I would as a teacher. Thank you. Reverend Chris McArdle, you're next.
Chair Mosqueda Jones and members of the ISD 279 School Board, thank you for the opportunity to address you all today. I'm the Reverend Chris McArdle, pastor of the First Congregational Church of Anoka, but I come before you today on behalf of the children and youth in my church who do hail from the Maple Grove and Osseo area of the metro. Some of them are LGBTQ, all of whom, their families, crave a safe and welcoming environment for their children. At our church, we believe that all children, LGBTQ or otherwise, are lovingly made in the image of God, and affirming that saves lives. We are all here today because we want to protect and nurture our children. We love them and want what's best for them. I affirm that those who believe that queer people are living in a manner inconsistent with God's will are trying to love their neighbors. But study after study shows us that LGBTQ children and youth consider and attempt suicide in numbers that dwarf their straight neighbors, explicitly because they have been told wrongly that they are aberrant, sinful, or broken. A 2019 study by the Trevor Project of over 34,000 queer youth in this country demonstrates that the support of even a single adult, supportive adult in a student's life, a queer student's life, can dramatically lower their risk of suicide. That is what my church lives out. Our welcome and celebration of our queer kids improves their outlook and positively impacts their mental health. They understand that our church is a safe place for them. When this district passed its LGBTQIA plus history and culture resolution on June 21st of last year, that's the same message you were sending to the scholars of this district. You are beautiful, you are loved, you are whole. That was a data-driven way to affirm and build up not just queer students, but all students. Policy 508 does the same thing. As a public school district, it is incumbent upon this board to support the student scholars in the most effective ways possible, and affirming queer students is one of those ways. In years past, the Anoka-Hennepin district in which I live has endured the tragic results of not supporting their queer students. Osseo Maple Grove chose last year to reject that harmful path. I urge you to stay upon it. In my 14 years of ordained ministry, I have pastored many people who identify as LGBTQ. I have cared for students who have been bullied by other students because of their sexual orientation or gender. I have held them as they have wept and listened to them as they have railed against a world that tells them they are not enough, that they need to be fixed. I have also beheld their joy when they have been able to express themselves fully, when they have been able to shed the fear of ostracism because they are in a school where they are affirmed without precondition. This district has made great strides in becoming this kind of healthy, encouraging, loving place, and I urge you to stay the course.
Time.
Thank you.
Joyce Cooney?
Question, I don't know if you allow this. Why is a non-district person speaking at a district meeting?
We've never not allowed non-district
But
people,
there's other people that have kids or actually live in the district wanting to speak.
and they're all here and they all will speak.
But you said the order at the beginning was they get to speak first.
Yeah, these are all district residents, or
He said he doesn't live here.
I misplaced the card, I'm sorry. Joyce Cooney.
My name is Joyce Cooney. I'm a resident of Maple Grove. And tonight I'll be reading a statement from a family in the school district. And she says, my husband and I grew up in and graduated from Osseo schools. We started our family here because we wanted our children to attend the schools. We now homeschool our kids. I taught secondary school in the district for more than a decade. If I were still a teacher in the district, I would be resigning. Our reasons are threefold. Number one, LGBTQIA plus resolution oversteps the boundaries of the teacher-student relationship and intrudes on the parent-child relationship by encouraging children to keep secrets from their parents. It places in our schools literature that is explicit, pornographic, and 100% inappropriate. Other adults should not be discussing sex, sexual acts, or sexual preferences with children. Values and beliefs around sex and identity vary across cultures and faiths. It is not the public school place to instruct children on these topics, whether or not that instruction aligns with the values of the beliefs at home. Second, safety and discipline are frighteningly lacking in our schools. Middle schoolers are advised by older peers to not use the bathroom during the school day. If a student must use the bathroom, their peers suggested they not go alone if they don't want to be assaulted, robbed, or harassed. They should expect to witness tobacco, alcohol, and drug use as well as sexual acts in the bathrooms. Students behaving disruptively, disrespectfully, violently, or otherwise inappropriately with no obvious consequences is a regular occurrence across grades and buildings. These students may be dismissed from class for a day or two, but typically return to class with no change in behavior. Number 3, lack of academic focus and support has impacted both our children through middle school and into high school. Our high school students spent nearly the entire academic year playing video games on his Chromebook in class. We first learned of this at January conferences, and we made clear to the teachers and our child that this was unacceptable. We applied consequences at home, gave teachers our support of consequences at school, and asked to be
30
informed
seconds remaining.
if the problem continued. We received no communication until we attended the April conferences, and it was still persisting. And now our student is behind in classes. And we asked why we weren't told, and the answers were he's not disrupting class, he aces his assessments, and he's clearly is bored in class. And additionally, the discontinuation of high-performance classes at the high school language courses at the middle school rob our students of academic challenge and enrichment.
Time.
Thank you for listening.
Ladon Severin.
Good evening, Ladon Severin, district resident and parent. I had prepared notes, and I'm actually just going to go from the heart, so forgive me if it's not as articulate. Just thinking about the LGBTQ agenda in our schools, as a parent of 6, I think of childhood, and that's really the crux of the matter of why we keep bugging you and coming to the school board meetings. I don't want to become a stench in your nostrils, but, you know, between all the children I've had 13 years straight of changing diapers and interrupted sleep. We are so invested in these kids, we're not just going to hand them over. We've worked so hard. And to the idea that kids, you know, this isn't contagious, look at the fashion. Is fashion contagious for teenagers? Look at the slang words that my kids keep updating me about, the most recent slang words. How'd they learn them? Is it contagious? It's contagious. Ideas are contagious. And so when you have adults and people in the place of authority and you have impressionable children, that's not a meeting of the minds. We're not talking about peer relationships. We are talking about parents entrusting their vulnerable, wet cement, very impressionable minors, and they're entrusting them to you. And so your job is not to cover controversial issues with them. Your job is to take our tax funding and to try your best to prepare them to just legitimately participate in American society and to have some sort of marketable skill, to be literate and to be able to do numbers. And so I think of my own teenage years as well. I had a best friend and she was totally boy crazy, and she would always be like, isn't he so hot, isn't he so hot? And I would think to myself secretly, that's not my first thought about him. So what if I'm a lesbian? But back when I was in school in the late 90s, it just wasn't a big thing. Like they weren't bugging me with their posters and their phrases. And so I just kind of grew out of any insecurities. And I'm really thankful that
30 seconds
insecure
remaining.
time in my life, I wasn't bombarded with these messages. And so I think it's very important to realize that puberty is a shaky time. We often don't like the changes that our bodies are undergoing. We're very vulnerable. So I just would ask you to keep that in mind. That's the crux of the matter. These are children, and they're our children. So thank you.
Thank you. Marty Benson.
Good evening. I'm a resident and a parent, and I also had the privilege of opening up my home 3 years ago to our high school students for what is called Breakfast Club, where the kids came, they heard a positive message from the scriptures, and they went away with monkey bread and just went away with a positive way to start their day. I also come here, if you will, as an old school parent. What happened to us teaching our kids at home about what's sacred? It is not the school's job to teach what is beautiful and to have it desecrated, basically, and trashed. Parents, the children are our responsibility. God gave them to us, no matter what God you follow.
Marty, remember you're addressing the board. Thank you.
God, the children are our responsibility. It starts at home. The training starts at home, not at school. Let's remember that. Thank you.
Thank you, and sorry for interrupting. Deanna Campus.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said something else.
Wow. I am not a District 279 parent. I am a District 11 parent. I live in Dayton, but I have a 55369 zip code because Maple Grove delivers our mail. I am here because at 5 o'clock, I got a nudge. I'll call it a God nudge. Sorry if that offends, but I got a nudge that I was supposed to share tonight. I walked in when someone, she has blonde hair, was reading, I think, a book that is being considered for the library. I am 51 years old. I am married. I am sexually active, and I was blushing. I was mortified that this is something that my children, even though they're not in District 279, things trickle down from district to district. And I am scared that my children will read that. The time for action is now. Someone said that. The silent majority needs to speak up. Someone else said that, maybe the same person. I don't understand what's going on in our education system. I don't understand why transgenderism has become a part of the curriculum. Why? I agree with so many of the parents who spoke here tonight that teaching begins in the home. And what you teach your children, and I know I'm not supposed to address them, so what you teach your children is up to you. What I teach my children is up to me. Earlier in June, I believe that there was a flag flown, maybe not in all of the schools, the pride flag. I have no problem with that. However, where's the flag for Down syndrome? My youngest has Down syndrome. Where's that flag? Where's the flag that says, I love Jesus? Because I do. Am I going to push that on any of you? No. But am I going to share with you that I love Jesus if you ask? I sure am. There was a reverend here that spoke, and I agreed with so much of what he said. He said that
30 seconds
affirming
remaining.
LGBTQIA saves lives. I agree that it probably does. I love that his church lives out acceptance. I want that in my life and in my church. But I don't want you guys, I don't want the schools teaching my children what's okay behind closed doors, behind bedroom doors. I want to teach my children.
Time.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Sorry, Clark Macbeth? How do you say your last name, Clark?
Macbeth, like
Macbeth, sorry. Thank you.
My name is Clark Macbeth. I am a resident of Maple Grove. When I went to school, I remember that in English class, they would give us a list of what we were going to read. And I believe that if you have an objection to what your kids bring at home, it is the parent's responsibility to do the research on the book and present their objections to the material. But if you insist on getting rid of all the pornographic literature, I have a simple solution. Give it all to me. And I promise your kids are never going to see that again. But if children do not get age-appropriate material on sex education and gender ideology, they're going to grow up to be just like me, y'all.
Thank you. Our last speaker tonight is Mujahid Shah Jahan? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mujahid Shah Jahan from Coon Rapids, Minnesota. I feel really odd because I'm not in your district, but I was invited here by somebody who is in the district. And I read the Gender Inclusion Policy 508 on the Osseo Area Schools website, and I skimmed through it. It says some stuff about allowing transgender people to be in like different sports, like a male who identifies as a female to be in a female sport. And that really doesn't make a lot of sense to me and not to a lot of other people. People's sexual preferences have nothing to do with your pronoun or your name or anything else. And, you know, if you're a woman when you're born, that means you're a man, but you have a womb. So if you don't have a womb, then you're a man. If you're born with a womb, then you're a woman or a woman. And that's very simple to understand. If you want to identify as straight, gay, or whatever, it's up to you what you do in your bedroom. It doesn't have to be brought out in public, no matter what it is. And just think, if you're going to allow men and women to be in different sports depending on what gender they identify as, then if you arrest, let's say, some male criminals, and they're sent to 10 years in prison, and they say, we identify as females, are you going to send them to a female prison and have them in a cell with a woman? And watch what'll happen. You know, you can just imagine. And just thanks for letting me come up here and talk, but you guys really got to think this through. If I would have known what that book was going to be about, I would have my kids stay at home. But the fact that the board is even sitting here warning the speaker, don't read that book in here because there's kids in the audience, then why is it in the library? That absolutely doesn't make any sense. So I just hope that you guys take your job seriously and listen to the parents and just try and make better choices. Thanks.
Thank you. And again, the policy and procedure 652 lays out, sometimes there are books in our libraries that should not be there. That's why we have this policy and procedure. So if you have a concern with a book, go through that procedure. Unfortunately, the board can't do anything about it till it goes through the procedure. The next item on our agenda, and I also want to say thank you to everyone for being respectful towards the end. Yes? Somebody's raising their hand?
I submitted my card to speak.
I did not get it.
I gave it to the gal.
What's your name?
Ladon Sakowski.
Maybe I accidentally flipped past it. I'm going to check. It might have gotten stuck. Yes, you're here. I am so sorry. Thank you. You can come up. Thank you for calling me on that.
Yep. Good evening, school board. My name is Justin Sakowski. I'm a Maple Grove resident and a father of 4 kids. Tonight, I'm reading a statement from a teacher who wished to remain anonymous. Hello, thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts about the current environment in our schools. I began my teaching career in the Osseo School District as a student teacher and have now been teaching in the district for 20 years. For the past 9 years, I've been a kindergarten teacher. My job and the job of all elementary school teachers is to create an environment where we show respect and kindness toward others. I model and teach young children how to work together and be a good friend. Students learn how to solve problems, become critical thinkers, and develop the stamina to do hard things without giving up. This develops the foundation on which academic learning can occur. As a kindergarten teacher, the next set of standards and goals to meet involves learning all letter names and sounds that by the time my students leave in June, they are able to read. Don't forget about math, writing, science, social studies, and health as well. In addition to teaching and nurturing the academic growth of my students, I am also wiping tears, tying shoes, zipping coats, finding lunch bags, opening milk cartons, cleaning up spilled snacks, and the list goes on. The job of a teacher is hard and complex. With all the demands that continue to be put on teachers, there is absolutely no time to add the extra burden of teaching sexual orientation or gender identity. These topics are absolutely inappropriate and unnecessary in school, especially at the elementary level. Students should be exposed to these topics at the discretion of and with their families. I am deeply concerned about the Osseo area schools and our departure from our main role, which is academic success for all students. Our schools should remain neutral in politics, religion, and social movements. The LGBTQIA+ resolution is not neutral. It assumes that all staff and families have one belief system. Staff and families were not involved in the decision-making process when this resolution was passed. I felt absolutely blindsided that this resolution was passed last summer. I'm disappointed that the input from staff or district community members wasn't sought out by the school board. I'm equally frustrated and concerned that there is absolutely no clarity on what the resolution even means when it comes to what is going to be taught in the classroom. Pass first, think about it later should not be the process in which important decisions that affect many people should be made. I am deeply concerned that you are asking teachers to overstep the boundaries between academic success and family belief systems. It is wrong to assume that all staff and student families carry the same religious, political, and social beliefs. We need to respect these different viewpoints and stop implementing curriculum that only emphasizes one particular social and/or political movement. We claim to value diversity in the district. Valuing diversity is exactly why we need to respect the different families throughout the district that have differing viewpoints in regards to the LGBTQIA+ resolution. Questions that I have for the school board as a teacher are these. What will happen to teachers who do not adhere to the resolution due to their own personal beliefs? I have 3 more. How will parents be notified about lessons/books that involve gender/sexual ideology? What is the protocol for parents who do not wish to have their child learn about gender identity in school? And finally, how does this resolution actually help our youngest learners? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, our next agenda item is the superintendent's report. Dr. Heil.
Alrighty. Good evening, Chair Mosqueda Jones and school board members. I'm excited to be the new superintendent here at Osseo Area Schools and to continue to work in our district that will help set our scholars to a pathway of success. The district's vision statement is to unleash and enhance the brilliance of our scholars to thrive and change the world. Actually aligns with my own vision of building a foundation that supports our scholars in a pathway which is guiding to their dreams, but also include to support our staff. We have extraordinary staff here in Osseo Area Schools, and they are greatly appreciated. It is important to me to ensure all voices are valued and heard. These are long-term goals that we will be working on in our district. The Mbutu tribe has a quote that states, "I am who I am because of who you are." We all impact each other, and it's important to do this in a caring and respectful manner while still addressing concerns. Our goal is to make Osseo Area Schools one community for all, where all are valued and heard. We are thankful to our students, staff, parents, and community members. And as a community, we can make these goals happen together. At this time, I'd also like to welcome our new cabinet member, General Counsel Amy Moore. Amy began her work here in district on July 1st. Next, the regular part of our superintendent update report is to share the points of pride in our district. By sharing our points of pride, we're taking time to recognize and celebrate what our work is all about. Our students, our scholars, our staff, and our community members who are contributing to the accomplishment of our mission, which is to inspire and prepare each and every student with the confidence, courage, and competence to achieve their dreams, contribute to the community, and engage in a lifetime of learning. I have members of our district cabinet here to assist in sharing some examples from the last few weeks. We have Assistant Superintendent Dr. Brian Bass, Executive Director of Technology, Anthony Patternis. Welcome.
Thank you, Superintendent Heil. Is this on? Hello, testing? Testing?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. All right. In the area of achieving dreams, congratulations to Maple Grove Senior High School recent graduate Jordan Borsch, who was named the 2022-2023 Minnesota Girls Track and Field Gatorade Player of the Year. The award, which recognizes not only outstanding athletic excellence, but also high standards of academic achievement and exemplary character demonstrated on and off the field, distinguishes Borsch as Minnesota's best high school girls track and field athlete. She has signed a national letter of intent to compete on scholarship at the University of Notre Dame this fall. Across the district, routine and schedule updates are being made to buildings and facilities this summer. Scholars at Park Center Senior High School will be participating in their athletics and activities on a brand new turf field next fall. Congratulations to the state championship Maple Grove Senior High School dance team, who were recently named the Star Tribune's 2023 All Metro Sports Awards Dance Team of the Year.
Congratulations to former Maple Grove Senior High School football quarterback and recent graduate Jacob Kilzer, who was named the Star Tribune All Metro Sports Award Courage in Competition winner. He will always be at the top of my Mount Rushmore for players I've ever coached at Maple Grove, Coach Matt Lombardi said. It's like he did the Michael Jordan flu game for an entire year. Unreal. In the area of lifelong learning, we are so proud of our class of 2023 graduates from the OALC, OEC, ABE, 279 Online, Park Center Senior High School, Osseo Senior High School, and Maple Grove Senior High School. These scholars are now on to their next adventure and lifelong learning and are prepared to take on the world thanks to all of the Osseo Area School staff who aided in their educational journey. In the area of mission-driven employees, congratulations to the Osseo Senior High School's principal, Sarah Vernig, assistant principal, Amber Heglin, and teachers, Beth Voss and Matt Leeson, for being awarded the Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals, or MASSP, Bronze Star of Innovation Award for their work with the Osseo Credit Recovery Opportunities. The award recognizes schools statewide for the development and support of an exemplary and innovative education program, including the degree to which the program demonstrates a positive impact, education, and the advocacy of children, and clear principal leadership in the development and implementation of this innovative program. The award winners were honored at a conference on June 13th.
Thank you, Brian and Anthony. Here are a few additional reminders and thoughts. Osseo Area Schools will provide free meals to children through the federally funded Summer Food Service Program from now through August 18th. Any child 18 years of age or younger may participate, and meals must be consumed on site during the allotted times for each site. Locations can be found at district279.org/summer meals. We're excited to welcome staff and scholars back for the 2023-24 school year. I'm sure our students don't want to hear that. But the first day of school back is Tuesday, September 5th, so let them know they have a little bit of time, irregardless that Target has back to school supplies out already. And once again, I just want to state again, I'm very excited to be back at Osseo Area Schools, which once again, the vision in which I live by is to unleash in our babies, I call our scholars that, and then enhance the brilliance of our scholars to thrive and change the world. I hope you will follow us along at facebook.com/Osceola Schools to see what I'm up to around the district and what you both and all of us can do together to make our district what we want it to be. In particular, keep an eye out for upcoming opportunities to learn about this fall's bond referendum, the second phase of our Building a Better Future, in which all of our sites will receive updates. We have some big things planned to keep the district geared for the 21st century success, and we so appreciate your continued partnership and support. I do ask as you leave today to please remember that Osceola area schools will become one community for all, where all are valued and heard. Thank you, and that concludes tonight's superintendent report.
Before that's actually concluded, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Heil on your first board meeting. That's when it's okay to clap. No, I'm just kidding. I would also like to give other board members a chance to comment or say something to her.
Oh, geez.
A welcoming comment or statement?
I'll go first. We're so excited to have you join us in this being your first meeting, and we've had the pleasure of having some wonderful leaders in our district, and I'm so excited to the vision that you're bringing, the energy you're bringing, and the positivity that you're bringing. So I do hope that the community goes onto social media and sees all the good work that that we are launching and that you're going to lead us with. So glad to have you.
You got this. Thank you.
I also just wanted to say welcome, and we're excited to have you. And we had great unity on the school board as deciding unanimously that you would be the next superintendent. So we're excited to have you. Thank you.
Well, welcome back. I am just thankful to be working with you again. When I first started on the board, Dr. Kim Heil was an assistant superintendent here at Osceola Area Schools, and I'm really looking forward to your leadership and direction in the coming years.
Thank you.
And also, welcome, Superintendent Heil. It's great to have you here. You have a really strong history of great leadership and leading with courage, and I love the connection to unleashing the brilliance of each of our scholars, because we are all here to learn to be lifelong learners, and that is our mission in the Osceola School District. So thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't even know what to say. I feel like you've been around for a while already.
Right? Just drop the mic and leave right now.
I guess I join, residents and especially staff across the district, and of course, the United Board, and welcoming you to the district. And like has already been said, I'm excited for the positivity and the breath of fresh air that you have already brought to this district. So. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your passion for our babies. I appreciate
right.
it. All right, our next agenda item is our board member reports. And before we do that, I just want to clear up some confusion that has been out there about board report times. First of all, there was a viral article that went out that had an incorrect statement. Director Grady did not interrupt the board meeting. She was speaking during board report. There was just a question about whether or not that was the right time to do it. Since there was some, plus there were no, I'm going to clarify some things. There are no specific written guidelines for this board report time. In fact, on the website, it was labeled committee reports, and on all of my other materials, it's labeled board reports. In keeping with the precedents from the time I've been on the board, this time will be used for reporting on the actions and activities of committees that each of us attend, school district events past and future, and recognition days, weeks, or months that apply to the school district and our community and our students. Thank you. So at this time, Director Brooks, do you have any board reports?
No board reports.
All right. Director Douglas.
I do not have any board reports.
Director Simons.
No board reports.
July is a very slow month for committees, just in case you didn't know. I only have one report. District 287, which is our intermediate school district that is a special ed district for scholars that need specific ways of teaching. I am now a part of a newly formed policy committee as part of that joint board. After receiving the results of an equity audit, we are looking at our policies to update them to address inequities as well as being consistent with the state statutes. The audit team suggested several policies to address, and the equity leaders of the district are creating a tool to analyze our policies and decision-making to make sure that they're all equitable. And that's the only report I have.
Okay, thanks, Jackie. No new reports. I just want to bring to your attention a deadline. It's on the district website for those of you parents that are here or listening online that want to get involved. We have a variety of committees, so take a look. The deadline for applications is September 24th, so we'd love to get well-rounded, well-balanced, and get parents involved in areas of interest and your expertise. So thanks for taking a look at that.
Okay, just one board report. So it was an association for, AMSD was, Association for Metropolitan School Districts had a joint meeting with the Minnesota School Boards Association to kind of go over some of the policy updates that school districts will have to make in light of the legislation that was passed during this session. One of the biggest things is school meals are now free. That policy, that law is now in effect. Kids can get one free breakfast, one free lunch. It won't change our policy on lunches, on lunches because students will still have access to a la carte items. Our policy number 102 will need to be updated to include the safety of transgender students. And in addition, we'll need to update the bullying policy to include a prohibition against sadistic and malicious conduct. That's it.
Which we're still unpacking. All right, thank you very much for those board reports. And thank you, Director Mitchell, for sharing that deadline. Please join our committees. We want a well-rounded committees. The next agenda item is the consent agenda. Board members, are there any items that you would like to remove for separate consideration? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed? Just a reminder to those watching and listening, the consent agenda includes typical things that need to happen every month, financial reports, payments, minutes from the last meeting, etc. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed?
So moved.
Moved by Director Heather Douglas. Sorry. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Director Simons. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. All right, there's one action item this evening, and it's our favorite, the approval of gifts to the district. Is there a motion to approve gifts to the district totaling $47,755.22?
So moved.
Moved by Director Douglas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Director Mitchell. Is there any discussion? We all say thank you very much. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Our final agenda item is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting at 7:10?
So moved.
Nice. Okay, moved by Director Grady. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned at 7:10 p.m.
Wow.
Down the record. No,